Welcome to Entrepreneurs Are Leaders podcast with Harry Sardinas. Interviews with world's most influential entrepreneurs that share tips about how to grow your business exponentially. Charismatic speaking, leadership, branding, marketing strategies designed to help you monetize your knowledge, find true happiness, and manifest your goals and dreams.
5 lessons that we can apply from NASA to the environments out there. Today we have Brady Pyle with us, which is the founder of Out of This World Leadership. And he also is a Chief of Human Resources Inclusion Officer at the Space Center in Houston, a leading nonprofit science and space exploration learning center that serves as an official visitor center for NASA. Wow, that's really impressive. During his 30 years of career at NASA, he also led and coached rocket scientists, engineers, and astronauts, twice earning the NASA Outstanding Leadership Medal. Oh, wow. And he served as NASA's first ever leader of HR field executive. Wow, this is fantastic. So, what are the 5 lessons that we can apply from NASA to the business out there?
Yeah, Harry, I recently published a book called Building Culture the NASA Way, where I share kind of a framework for building culture that I believe can be applied anywhere. In fact, it was worked well for NASA's 18,000 employees. It's working well at Space Center Houston. We have 200 full-time staff and another 300 part-time and seasonal. But the steps that we use to build culture are framed around the NASA acronym. So navigate the culture, understand your values, how your culture was shaped, what culture are you driving to, understand the key moments that shape your culture. You know, NASA was shaped by some big space shuttle accidents, some collaboration with the International Space Station program with 16 other countries. Those were some big events that shaped. So navigate the culture. Second is to assess and adapt, to find a way to measure your culture and then look for 2 critical few improvements you can make each year to your culture and to your organization. Involve other people in making those changes to the organization as well. Third is strengthen leadership and systems. So culture is really shaped and built by leaders. 2/3 of engagement scores are a direct result of employees' relationship with their leaders. So have in place a process that really builds leadership capacity, that talks about that next layer of leaders, particularly if you have your own company and you're looking at how to sustain success going forward. Fourth step would be activate inclusion and innovation. We built a culture strategy around inclusion, making sure everyone's voice was heard at the table to get more creative, innovative solutions, bring people together and get those things done that way. And finally, I think, continue to grow yourself and your own leadership capacity. Often a leader's capacity is the lid for their organization's success. So if you're continuing to learn and grow, you're going to expand your business's potential and capacity.
So NASA is a big brand, yeah, very strong brand that is very attached to the American public in general because of the breakthroughs and the successes that they have achieved. But the organization have been in different stages, right? Even now they have competition, right? You have a lot of competition. Like you have Elon Musk doing these rockets. You have the Amazon also trying, and everybody is joining. So how you reshape culture? Because before it was less competition, right? You guys, you were the protagonists of that space, right? No one who can compete with that. You need a lot of resources and everything. And now you have people showing up that said that they can do better than you, that you are the leading brand on this, and you've been there doing stuff for years. So how you reshape culture in order to to build the leadership and the branding at NASA?
Yeah, Harry, that's a great question, and let me just give a little bit of context. So when the space shuttle was close to retirement in the early 2010 timeframe, NASA said we need to do things differently if we're going to go deeper into space. We need commercial space companies to come in, provide new ideas, new approaches. And so NASA's approach to contracting for services shifted. Instead of NASA providing very detailed requirements for contractors to fulfill, they provided outcomes and then let the contractors use their innovation to drive a different approach. So a lot of what you see from SpaceX today, from Blue Origin, which is Jeff Bezos's company, were NASA funded initiatives. So SpaceX
Oh, wow. I
to
didn't
this
know.
point, yeah,
I saw that you guys had competition.
before SpaceX went with the IPO, all of their money came from government programs, either the Space Force, which is more in the Department of Defense, or from NASA for civilian space. But SpaceX, they generated kind of the idea of reusable boosters, which was a game changer in the price model and the cost model for launches. And we need them to continue to innovate and be successful to go further into space. But NASA has actually created this ecosystem of commercial space development, and that was an intentional strategy kind of post shuttle. But how we build culture at NASA, I would say for a long time, our culture at NASA was permeated by this failure is not an option mentality that kind of permeated. And so we had to take some intentional steps to, we did recognition programs around lean forward, fail smart, recognized R&D projects that were out there that had visible failures. What did we learn from them? How are we going to move forward? How are the leaders of those projects moving forward in their careers? And so we've had to take some very specific steps to adjust and stay up with the times, if you will.
Okay, one podcast guest comment the other day, women, that it's gonna be a future launch, and they are all gonna be men, and there are some people really upset about it.
Yes.
And it's big. I mean, have been a lot of noise about this. Even some
Right.
podcast guests who were talking about women in business and leadership and everything. And they said the story, and she told me, Harry, by the way, have you heard about that now? And she said that before they have one female in the team, and this female fixed the toilet, and if it was not for the female, this tripulation didn't come back, and now they're gonna send only men. And so, what is your take on this? And of course, it goes a little bit deeper because we are aware that you guys have a big team, and you have women, men, and
Right.
probably the people that goes there doesn't have to do anything with gender. It has to do with who is more trained to this particular mission. And but how you navigate these challenges, because again, you have that culture, and if you build in the
Right.
culture of inclusivity, and now we have to deal with the challenge and also with the noise, because have been a lot of noise. So what's your take on this?
So first, I would say there are a lot of talented women astronauts at NASA. The Artemis program was originally conceived to put the first woman on the moon, and that is still a goal of the Artemis program. And it's Artemis was the sister of Apollo in Greek mythology, and that's part of the branding. In Artemis 2, the mission that just went around the moon, test mission, we had Christina Cook was part of that and made huge contributions to that mission. Artemis 3, the most recent crew, what their mission is, they're going to fly the rocket to low Earth orbit. So they're not going to go to the moon. They're going to fly to low Earth orbit, and then SpaceX is going to launch their rocket and their moon lander. They're going to rendezvous with the Space Launch System rocket, and they're going to test out the docking and the systems for the moon lander for SpaceX. Then there's going to be another launch by Blue Origin. They're going to launch their moon lander and dock and test it out. So these are all tests happening in low Earth orbit. And that is, they did select an all-male crew for that. I'm fully expecting the Artemis 4 crew, which will be the one that would put the first person back on the moon since the early 1970s, to have a woman there as part of that. And again, there's a lot of talented women in the space program. I'm not too keen on the idea of, who's the most qualified, because when you're looking at these astronauts' resumes and what they've done, women and men, they're all out of this world, accomplishments.
So how they get selected then?
They have to make tough decisions on, who has the experience, I guess, with this, who will work together the best as far as an overall crew. And I can't really speak. I've been removed now from NASA for about 3 years, so I can't speak to the specific decision here, but I do know that women are going to play a key role in this program and certainly stepping on the moon here one day.
Okay, so back to culture. How you reshape culture when things like this happen? And what lessons can entrepreneurs learn from that? Because look, Brady, every tech entrepreneur that I ask the question, if you need to start all over again, what would you do different, or what would you pay more attention? They always said, Harry, culture. Right. I didn't know that it's going to be 100 times harder. I didn't know that these people that I started with is going to take a sweat and tears and longer. And if I knew that, I would treat them better and stay with them better, things like this. So you tell me, what do you think, Brady, about reshaping culture?
Yeah, so first, Harry, I like to joke, being a longtime HR professional, that the HR job would be easy if it wasn't for the people. So I think people tend to be your challenge. I think if you're starting from scratch, or if you're starting where you are today, you've got to start with what is your vision, what is your mission, and what are your values? What are the values that you want to shape your organization and your team? And then you're selecting for those, you are evaluating for those. One of the key things we do at Space Center Houston is we provide upward feedback for our leaders from their teams about how are they modeling the values? Where do they need to show improvement? And then we really look at that from an overall system perspective. How do we train leaders to live out those values, and what does culture in action really look like? So it's a very intentional, systematic process to build culture. It's not, you don't just leave it to happenstance. You've got to be very intentional about how you shape it and how you manage it.
Culture and HR, right? Something that so usually when people hire people out there, they say, okay, let me see your resume, let me see the skills. Oh, you have a lot of experience. You have the skills, so you're going to be great for this job. And then you bring the person into the company and become a headache. You don't understand what happened. You say, how come? So the old way to do HR, or not the old way, still is out there. This is how people are bringing people to organizations. And later in my company, which is actually, we're a company that we have very few people and we do a lot of things.
Right.
So in our company, culture is the most important. We need someone that, in my 20 years that I've been in business, none of my employees, they never told me, Harry, this is not my job. Even for this podcast, right. I talked with my IT director, said, look, we want to do a podcast. And he told me, Harry, what's that? I said, I don't know. He told me, I don't know. I said, well, we have to find out. He told me, okay, give me 3 weeks. Harry, let me come back to you. And after 3 weeks, they come and said, Harry, all you have to do, show up, record it, upload to Dropbox. That's it. It will go to all your website. It will go to all your social media. Everything is connected. Everything, all the background is created. It's amazing. We already developed the website. Everything. Just that's what you have to do. By the way, you just give them this link. You already have an automatic calendar, or the question will be there. Just give me the question. So they figured out not only how to do the podcast and put it in all platforms, they find out in the way that we work, in the way that we think
Right.
as a company, how to do things different, how to do. So all of this was already embedded, and no one from the team involved. Well, Harry, this is not my job. You hire me for this, or you hire me for that, right? And I think that when we bring them in, uh, before we check the skill sets, because the skill sets eventually they can learn it, we try to you put them into training. We ask some questions to see if they can cope with what we're doing here. That is very dynamic. That almost every day something is different. That they have to research. That this is not like systematic things. Someone tasks that we have are systematic, but no all. It depends on the role that they play. So which message do you have for what message do you have for HR departments out there
Hmm.
that how they can identify culture matching before skill matching, because uh, the culture of the new employee need to match the culture of the organization. For example, talking about the culture of NASA, you could be the best astronaut in the world, but if you jump there and your culture doesn't align with the culture of the organization, you won't be comfortable. What happened in our organization when we bring someone that he had different cultural fit, they check out
Hmm.
themselves. They stay in the company 1 year, 2 years, and they say, "Well, Harry, I'm leaving. We can." As our culture, we try to keep and embrace and train everyone. We realize that it costs me a lot of time, effort, and energy. Try to keep them, but when it's
Hmm.
not culture match, eventually they check out themselves. However, we have people that employees that have been working for us for a lot of years. We have employees that start to work with us with no children. Now they have 3 children. So because there is a culture. So can you tell
Right.
us what message do you have for HR professional out there? How to bring the right people to organization, and what is they should be looking at apart from if the person had the right experience and the right skill set to do the job.
Yeah, so Harry, as I heard you describe your team and your culture of you're working together, people are pitching in to help however. That was my experience at NASA. NASA is a very strong teamwork-based culture. Um, when NASA selects astronauts, they actually get the opinions of the receptionists and nurses who weren't necessarily involved in the official interviews, but they get their opinions. And there have been people screened out because they treated receptionists and nurses differently, and they would not fit in the NASA culture because NASA is all about team, treating everyone with respect, um, and so those culture fits were kind of discounted. What I would say at NASA as well is we hired a lot of technical experts, people who were the smartest in their field. And what we had to look at is, we had some basic requirements, but you would get a pool of highly qualified candidates. And what would differentiate those pool of candidates was how they would fit within the team, how they would communicate, how they would, uh,
So
what are things,
how
what
you
are
do it?
things,
How
yes,
you
what are,
do it if you don't know the
yeah.
person?
Well, I think part of what you're assessing through your interview is you're really trying to get at examples that they have in their past where they've demonstrated working as a member of a team, where they've demonstrated effective communications, and you're not asking them what they would do because a lot of people can share kind of theoretically what I would do, but you need to really assess what they've done. Give concrete examples of how they've participated as a member of a team, how they've achieved results with others, how they've worked communications. So you're trying to get at that. You get at that through reference checking as well, to really see are they going to fit the values of your organization and your team.
So tell us about your book.
Yeah, so my book, it's Building Culture the NASA Way. And one of the interesting things you might think when you hear NASA, hey, well, NASA was always the best place to work. It's very unique. But as I describe in my book, we were running third place to fifth place in the engagement surveys for many years. And then we had a new leader come in who said, this really isn't acceptable for NASA. We should be the best place to work. And they really started focusing very intentionally on listening to the feedback from the surveys, making those critical few improvements, strengthening leadership, and really building culture. So in the book, I give those practical strategies that we used at NASA and the framework that any organization can use to build its culture.
Yeah, but what happened if when the new leader arrived, there are people already in the organization that doesn't have culture much, and they are already there. Because these people are not going to change. And trust me, I tried. I try, and very rarely succeed. And all the opposite. It takes a lot of time and energy in
Right.
training, in persuasion, in this. And at the end of the day, there is no culture fit. It doesn't work. So
Right.
how and we have few people, imagine in a large organization. So what you do when you have a new leader, right, and say, well, this is unacceptable, but then you have 20%, 25% of the team members already that they were brought before, and probably that's the main reason why the organization is not performing as they brought the new leader. But now you need to deal with these first people, and they're not going to change. They have their own values and their own culture, which are not bad. They can have very good values. However, their good values doesn't match the good values of NASA. So that's why there is no culture fit. And if there is no culture fit, there is no productivity, there is nothing. So they're non-role, basically. So how you deal with these people? How what can be done?
So again, I'll go back to what did we do rather than give theoretical answers. What was done back then was we established accountabilities at different levels. So we made the engagement survey results very transparent. So every organization you had engagement survey results. Every organization was responsible for identifying areas of improvement and for their scores to improve over time. And that was very open. NASA, I think, like a lot of organizations, leaders are competitive. They don't want to be that lowest scoring organization, on the chart that's very visible to everyone. So there was a lot of work and a lot of incentive to make improvements and work with your HR consulting team, work with others to make sure that your organization is improving. We did see areas where either leaders didn't take it seriously or the organizations didn't improve, and you had to bring accountability in those cases where, hey, we needed a leadership change because they were given the opportunity and just didn't make the adjustments. We also had the upward feedback surveys about leaders and how they were doing with culture and how they could improve as leaders. So we were getting input both organizationally and then also leader specific to help drive that accountability.
So, what are the biggest lessons of leadership that we can learn from NASA?
I think some of the biggest lessons. So I would start with some of our visible failures. So we had the Space Shuttle Challenger accident in the 1980s. We had the Columbia accident in 2003. And the big learnings for us there in the 80s, it was all about groupthink. We had too much groupthink going on where individuals were not contributing their own thoughts and ideas. They were kind of going along to get along. And then in 2003, with the Space Shuttle Columbia, there was information in the organization that didn't make it to leadership that could have given signals about the pending accident. And what we learned there, Dr. Edgar Schein wrote a book called Humble Inquiry, where he speaks about the importance of leaders asking questions and really getting feedback from their team. And so I think learning from those lessons that we had to learn the hard way through accidents. And then I also think we learned a big lesson through the International Space Station. It was a cooperation of 16 countries coming together. And a big thing that NASA did was we did cultural training. We tried to learn other cultures and how we best work together. And that helped us not only with the International Space Station, but it helped us organizationally too, as we became more diverse as our workforce, to understand different perspectives and appreciate and respect one another. And that built this culture of inclusion that led to innovation at NASA.
So the most one question that I have is regarding how you become challenged, right? And how you become the challenge. You're talking about you have one of the most known brands in United States, which is NASA, right? And then you have setbacks. So how you become those big challenges, and it doesn't happen once; it's happened again and again. So how you come back stronger from these challenges? What are a few things that companies can do?
Yeah, I think, and I think about this both individually and organizationally. So individually, I think it's about taking personal responsibility and ownership. So understanding, my part in the failure and what can I do differently to move this forward. I think being a learner and being a learning organization is key to really move forward. I know there was one point at the Johnson Space Center where we had a leader who came in and said, boy, you guys have the reputation of not invented here culture. So you're very arrogant organizationally, and you're not really growing and learning as you should. So I think being a learning organization, being a learner individually is very important, because we're all going to face setbacks, challenges, and how are we learning from those to continue to move forward.
If someone is in love with this conversation, how people can find you, how this process works?
Yeah, I'm out there on LinkedIn. You could also just look me up by my name, bradypyle.com, and find my website where the book is located. I also have a blog with a bunch of book summaries out there as well. But bradypyle.com or LinkedIn are both two good ways, Harry. So I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And for all of you following the Entrepreneurs and Leaders podcast, see you in our next episode, how great entrepreneurs like Brady made the world, have businesses and made the world a better place. Bye for now.
Follow us for more on charismatic speaking, leadership, exponential business growth, branding, marketing, strategies designed to help you monetize your knowledge, find true happiness, and manifest your goals and dreams.